Jam-packed next weekend. All right. Let's go back to the burning bush. Last week we introduced Jesus, Jesus, the pre-incarnate Christ, some people say was the burning bush. But the burning bush and Moses just talking to him the first time, this is the actual call of Moses. And whenever you dig into the lives of the patriarchs, it can be a little underwhelming because they were sinful, normal people that God tapped. So let's just see what happens here. We, of course, start with the quiz. Number 1, the best sign God gave Moses was the leprous hand. Getting a few blank stares. That was a good one. Let's keep her moving. 2, Moses was a bad public speaker. That's what he said. And we'll get into that too. 3, Moses was worried about something besides public speaking. Yeah, he had a few things on his plate by the age of 80. We call it baggage. As you get older, you pick that up. Last one, Moses told God he didn't want the job. That's true. Moses did, in fact, tell God, no thanks. I'm good with the whole shepherding gig. And you guys probably know how that ended, but let's jump into it. How many days did Moses want for his trip with the Israelites? This is a review from last week. 3 days. That's all he wanted. God, let me take these people into the desert for 3 days. We'll worship and then we'll be back. We promise, Pharaoh. Now this, of course, never got to that point. It escalated, as things do sometimes. 10 plagues later, the Egyptians kicked him out. But let's see how it goes. This is Exodus 4.
What if they do not believe me or listen to me and say, "The Lord did not appear to you"?
Then the Lord said to him,
"What is that in your hand?"
"A staff."
"Throw it on the ground."
Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. Then the Lord said to him,
"Reach out your hand and take it by the tail."
So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand.
This is so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has appeared to you. Put your hand inside your cloak.
So Moses put his hand into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was leprous like snow.
Now put it back into your cloak.
So Moses put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. Then the Lord said,
If they do not believe you, or pay attention to the first miraculous sign, they may believe the second. But if they do not believe these 2 signs, or listen to you, take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground. The water you take from the river will become blood on the ground.
With these signs, would you have been ready to march into Pharaoh's place and request a camping trip for Israel? And if I was Moses, which would be my least favorite sign? Who wants their hand leprous? God, that's a terrible idea. Okay, let's chain it back now. Yeah, but that was the deal. And Moses was not ready yet. God's trying to pump him up. You can do this, Moses, don't worry. And Moses is not buying it. This is Exodus 4, verse 10.
"O Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue."
Do you think Moses was a poor public speaker? If you don't public speak, you know what I thought? I thought every public speaking. Do you think that that's true? No. Go poll teachers. The vast majority of them. And I said, but you talk in front of a class of children, 8 hours a day sometimes? And they said, that's totally different. I said, okay, I guess so. Yeah. How old was Moses at this point? Do you remember? He's 80. He's 80 years old. And I don't know that he's ready for a whole new career. What was Moses' history with God's people? Do you remember that? 40 years ago. What happened, Elliot? This is Acts 20.
At that time Moses was born, and he was no ordinary child. For 3 months he was cared for in his father's house. When he was placed outside, Pharaoh's daughter took him and brought him up as her own son. Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was powerful in speech and action.
So, do you think Moses was a poor public speaker, going back to number 6? No. And I'm telling you, it's like riding a bike. It is. Now, I wouldn't know because I don't really miss any Sundays, but I'm told that after you know how to do it, it's not that hard. Part of the challenge is learning to hear your own voice and not being terrified of it. But, yeah, it's a skill they can teach anybody because I was not a gifted public speaker when I started this gig. So, yeah, it's not that hard. All right, this is more of Acts 7.
When Moses was 40 years old, he decided to visit his fellow Israelites. He saw one of them being mistreated by an Egyptian, so he went to his defense and avenged him by killing the Egyptian. Moses thought that his own people would realize that God was using him to rescue them, but they did not. The next day, Moses came upon 2 Israelites who were fighting. He tried to reconcile them by saying, "Men, you are brothers. Why do you want to hurt each other?" But the man who was mistreating the other pushed Moses aside and said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Do you want to kill me as you killed the Egyptian yesterday?" When Moses heard this, he fled to Midian, where he settled as a foreigner and had 2 sons.
Oh, I see. Moses tried to lead God's people before God's call. How'd that go? Not good. Now, that would explain a few things. If you've ever had a bad experience, that can scar you for life. My eldest, when he was 6 years old, was put in goal, and he let in 8 goals in 2 minutes, and his team lost. This is rec league soccer, mind you. He's still scarred for life when it comes to playing goalie. Okay? And you hear different stories about people. It's ridiculous. Things like that mess with your head, okay? And if you're Moses and you are a prince of Egypt and you know how to do all this stuff, he was 6 or 7 by the time he was handed over to the princess. He could speak Hebrew fluently. He knew all of God's traditions. And he knew his place all the way up. He's 40 years old. He says, "It's time. We're out of here. And I'm going to start it. I can't take it anymore. I see one of my brothers being mistreated." And he kills the man. He murders him. I doubt the Egyptians were pleased with murder. And I doubt the statute of limitations would be... What is the statute of limitations in the U.S. on murder? There is not one. Do you think there's one in Egypt? Probably not. So if Moses goes back 40 years later, how's that going to go? He's got about 6 different reasons to not want to go back to Egypt. And now God says he's ready? Yeah. God has a way of doing this, where just when you think this is a bad idea, now God says we're going to do it. This is Exodus 4:13.
Oh Lord, please send someone else to do it.
So what's wrong with Moses? He's damaged goods. I mean, yeah, he's not ready for it. Well, okay, how's this going? Exodus 4:14.
Then the Lord's anger burned against Moses, and he said,
What about your brother Aaron the Levite? I know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and his heart will be glad when he sees you.
Yeah. How does God treat Moses? Is Moses struck down immediately? No. God's merciful. And I think, cut yourself some slack. When you ever walk up to a guilty person, and they're so hard on all the people all else around them, like Zacchaeus, they are so hard on themselves. And that is a really difficult way to go through life. And to show them mercy from God is a big deal because they won't show it to themselves. That is part of their sanctified lives that they need to work at. And Moses sounds like that guy. Now, obviously, Moses did a few things with him, and Moses figured out that he could public speak. But to start, God just removes all the excuses and said, Moses, we're doing this. I know your brother can talk. Let's go. So, yeah. Any questions about Moses and his call? We get to the Passover next week. Pray with me, please. When I am called to serve, Lord, let me remember that you are I am, ever faithful and unchanging in your love for me. Move me by your grace to serve you willingly, to the glory of your saving name. Amen. There are no other announcements. May God give you a blessed week.